So fine. Today what we are going to do is that we will be learning Testng. Okay, that what Testng is and why is it used. All right. Okay. Now, what is the use of Testng? Till now we have learned about Selenium. Okay. In all the previous days we learned about Selenium. Now we will be learning about Testng. Look, to give you an idea in a nutshell, I had explained you earlier as well that we have got Selenium scripts. Okay, we build scripts in Selenium. These are scripts in Selenium, right? And you have a requirement that you have to run them one after another. Okay, or you have to run them parallelly at the same time, right? Sometimes you have a requirement that you want to skip a script and you want to run like this in this order. You don't want to run this one. Okay, right. Apart from this, you would want that your data should be read from an XLS file or a properties file, the way we discussed yesterday. Okay, or you would want to generate better reports, reports like extent reports, reports which are having screenshots in them. Okay, reports which are having logs in them. Okay, what do you mean by logs? That when the scripts were running, what happened at each and every moment. Okay, the logs, they describe that, right? So how will you manage all these things? If you talk about Selenium, then Selenium is a tool which is only under this green. The scripts are written in Selenium. Scripts, Selenium will not never help you to read Excel file, properties file, report generation, screenshots. Okay, or to batch run the scripts or parallelly run. Selenium will not do that. Selenium will only, all the Selenium commands, they interact with the browser. Whatever we had done till day number 13, we had written Selenium commands which were interacting with the browser. Okay, we never generated reports or something like this, right? So to do all these things, to collaborate between all these things, we use Testng. Okay, or people also use JUnit. Some people use Cucumber BDD. Okay, right. So there are various frameworks available. So what these tools they do is that they will help you read the data. They will call the scripts in the order you want or parallelly as well, and they will help you to generate reports, screenshots, and take logs and all everything. Okay, right. Now, how do we manage this? How do we work with this? Right. So now we'll be studying about Testng in this training because maximum of the companies they work with Testng. Right. If you want to learn about JUnit or Cucumber, then on the pre-recorded video tutorials to which you have access, okay, then okay, hold on, just 1 minute. Actually, I was working on JMeter. JMeter requires a proxy, so I done the proxy set. Okay, so out here, if you look at the website, then in the video number, you can look at the video number 8. It's on JUnit framework. Okay, the ninth video is on Testng, right? And if you want to learn about Cucumber BDD, then if you scroll down, then in the video numbers 24 and 25, I have explained the Cucumber framework. Okay, right. So anyone with any questions, you can let me know. Right, let us start with Testng. The first thing about Testng is that you need to understand how to install Testng. Okay, to install Testng, you have to go to Google and type Testng Eclipse. Testng gets added inside Eclipse as a plugin. Fine. So out here, you go to the first link and click on install the plugin. Hold on. Right. Out here, what you need to do is that you need to take this URL, this one. Okay. I'll give this URL to everyone on the chat as well. Right. Open up Eclipse. In Eclipse, go to help and install new software. You have to install Testng inside Eclipse as a plugin and paste this URL. Hit the enter button of the keyboard, and after that, hold on, it's showing pending to me, but in your case Testng will come up over here. You need to select the checkbox and then hit the next button. The server might be down for their website right now. Okay, that's why it is coming pending for such a long time. But in your case, you will get the Testng option and you can click next and you'll do. Okay, right. Everybody has Eclipse 4.2 or above these days. Okay. Yeah, Luna will do it. It's okay. Right. So there is some error coming up, unable to read the repository. Maybe their server is down right now. Okay. Now, once you install it, okay, it will be up. Sometimes it happens with the Testng website. I've seen it before as well. Right. Once you install it, okay, you can check whether Testng has installed or not. You go to Windows, Show View, go to Other, and out here under Java, you will see Testng. If Testng is coming, that means Testng has been successfully installed as a plugin inside Eclipse. Right. Now, I'll make a new Java project. Day 14 underscore Testng. Right. And what we will do is that we will create a new project, and that project can be I'll just make a package first, test cases. Package is like a folder inside the source folder. Okay, it helps you to organize your code and organize stuff, right? And I'll make a new class known as login test, a very basic thing with no function inside it. Testng has got no main function. Okay, right. There are annotations in Testng. For example, you write over here @test public void do login. This @test is technically known as an annotation. It signifies that this function is a test case. Okay, you move the mouse over this error and you will get the option to add the Testng library in the project. You click on this and Testng will be added as a library in the project. You will be able to see it, right? And then import the test annotation. This will be imported, so you can actually use it, right? and inside it I will just write over here login test. So this becomes my test case. Okay, you can right click on login test.java and you will get the option run as testng test. You will be getting that option. You select this option and the program will run. Right, it will print total test runs are 1, failures are 0, skips are 0. That means it executed one test case, there was no failure or there were no skipping of the test case, and you can run it from the normal run button as well on the top. Right, so there is no main function. Okay, apart from this you have got results tab where you will be able to see the results in a graphical format. Fine. And apart from that, if you refresh the project, you'll get a test output folder. Inside this, there will be index.html. Fine. If you copy the path to this index.html and if you go to this path, then this will be my default reports, the HTML reports of Testng. These are not very you can say very impressive. Okay, you cannot just give it to someone, but these are the basic reports. Later on we'll be seeing how to make better reports. Okay, and those are known as extent reports. Okay, this is an example of extent report. Right, for example, this is a sample extent report. Okay, it's got the graphical view as well, and you can actually generate very good reports. So we'll see how to generate these reports, and you can put the screenshots and all everything in them. Right, so the objective right now is to understand how testng works. Fine, so this is a test case inside the class login test. Similarly, I can make another test case at the rate test, something like this, do send mail, and inside it I can write sending mail test. Okay, then I can have more test cases in this file. Okay, look, annotation, they are predefined things inside testng. This is a test annotation. If I write this annotation in front of any function, then that function becomes a testng test case. When testng will run this file, by reading this annotation function, testng will come to know that fine, this is a test case. Okay, if I just write a function like this, public void do log out, and I write logging out. If I run this program, I have not given any test annotation in front of the third function do logout. Okay, if I run this, you will be seeing that total test runs are 2. There are 2 test cases which have executed. Okay, the 2 test functions are do login and do send mail. Right, the logout is not coming up right now because it's not a test case. It's not got any test annotation. You can put at the rate test over here in front of logout, and if you run it, you'll now see that the total test runs are 3. Okay, right, fine. And if you look out the order in which it is printed, the order is not the same. Okay, that is not there. Login test is printing first, then logging out, and then sending email. This is a little weird. Okay, login test is printing first, it should have been, but after that I was expecting sending mail test to be printed, but that is not getting printed, rather logging out is getting printed. Look, TestNG has got its own order in which TestNG executes the test cases. Okay, it's got its own order. You cannot define that order, but you can prioritize your test cases. You can actually, no, the question being asked is, if I don't write this @test, will it run the logout function? No, it will not run. Only those functions which have got @test annotations, only those functions are executed. Okay, right? Yeah, it goes by the alphabetical order. Right? But you can prioritize your test case. I can write over here priority equals to 1, priority 2, and priority. Now it will run as per the priority. The lowest, like the highest priority, like 1 will be executed there first, then 2, and then 3. So when you run it, you'll see that login test will be executed first, then sending bin, and then logging out. You can prioritize your test cases which are there in a single Java file as well, the way I have prioritized my test cases. Fine. Okay. Now you can have validations as well. Fine. For example, I'll create a new class known as, say, validate test. Okay. How can you do validations in TestNG? I'll just write @test public void say test apps. You are testing some application, right? Now what is testing? In testing field, what we have two things. We have expected value and we have got an actual value for anything on the web page, right? Expected values you can keep in your XLS file or your properties file, that this is the title, this should be the title of my page, this should be the text somewhere on the page, okay, or this should be the text link text, right? The actual value you will use Selenium to extract from the application, and you have to compare both the values. For example, there is a title of the page. Okay, right now I am writing expected title over here ABC, right? Later on you can read it from the external file as well, but right now I'm just telling you like this, and there is some actual title. Okay, so there are two things, expected title and actual title, and you have to compare both of them. For that you have got assertions, and there is a assert class. Okay, if you move your mouse over this class, you'll get the option to import assert class. org.testng.assert, you have to import it. Make sure you have imported it from the testng. Sometimes it gets imported from JUnit. Assert is also there in JUnit. Okay, if I write assert dot, I get a lot of options. I can use assert dot assert equals actual and expected. You have to send the actual title and expected title. Assert equals function, it asserts that both the values should be equal. If I run this, it will simply say that total test runs are 1, failures are 0. But if I give a different title in the expected one and the actual one, and if I run it, it will fail the test case. Failures will be equal to 1, and if you open the results of running the validate test, you will see a failure. Okay. Anyone with any questions? Right, so assert equals will compare
What
both
is the
these.
asset?
Pardon?
Asset meaning like
Assert is an inbuilt class. Inside it, there are functions. There are static functions which you can call. Okay, assert equals function. It compares both of them. Okay, everything inside this function, all the functions are static. No if statement has to be used, nothing. Simply this line. Right. Similarly, there is one more assert function which you will be using a lot. Assert dot assert true. This one. Okay. Right. And you will have to give some condition, and this message is nothing but error message. And some condition. Say I write 10 greater than 2. Now what does this mean? First understand that how it works, and then I will tell you where to use it. Right, 10 greater than 2 will evaluate to true. In Java, if I write over here system.out.println 10 greater than 2, and if I run the program, this prints true, that it is true that 10 is greater than 2, and if I write 10 greater than 12, it will print a boolean type false. So out here you have to give a boolean, assert true. Make sure that the whatever condition I am writing is true. If it is not true, if it is false, then the error message will be thrown and the assertion will fail the test case. Right now, if I run this, this will evaluate to true and I will have failures as 0. Okay, but if I write 10 greater than 12, 10 greater than 12 will evaluate to false, and that is why you will get a failure. Okay, right. Now how do you practically use it? Remember, say we had made a function known as in our training, we had, when we were testing links, in whether the links in a group are working fine or not, we had made this function is element present, and we were passing the xpath expression inside it. So you can call the function, say is element present, and if it returns you true, then it's fine. If it returns you false, then you can send the error message that element not found. Okay, right. So do we need to enter all the steps related to test case? Yes, you have to. Yes. So assert true will actually demand this condition to evaluate to true. If it is not evaluating to true, you can throw the exception, or you can throw the error that element not found, and this will come up in the reports as well, this error message. So majorly, or these are only the two assertions which you will be using, assert equals and assert true. Maximum number of times you will have to use assert equals. Sometimes you are very sure that the test has failed. There are scenarios, for example, you were expecting to be on a page, but you never land up on that page, and you are very sure that the test has failed, right? So hold on, Ashish, hold on. So in that case, you want to deliberately fail the test, so you can write assert dot fail. with the error message, which will come up in the reports. So this is also possible. You can fail the test case with assert.fail. Deliberately you can fail, and when you run it, it will have a failure and error message. Whatever is the error message will be written over here as well. Okay. Now can we use both assert together equal and true, and if both of them? Look, if the assertion fails, the program will stop on that line. If my assertion fails on this line, then after this line none of the assertions will work. The program will stop on this line. Okay, right? So this is how it works. Fine. Now what if you don't want to stop it on this line, you just want to carry forward? I'll tell you in the frameworks. When I'll tell you about frameworks, you will come to know. Okay, right. Now um, moving ahead, if I have to if I have to implement the assertions in the login test. Okay, if I have to implement the assertions in the login test, say I write over here assert dot fail. Suppose I fail my login test, right? So with some error message, I am failing my login test, right? So is there a way to link test case to testng instead of writing steps? Look, I'm linking the test cases to testng only. This @ test annotation is from testng only. These becomes my test cases. These become my test cases. Okay. So if out here I am deliberately failing the login test. If I run this code, you get an output over here. Login test is in red. That means it has failed, and whatever is the error message you will actually see over here. But do send mail and logout test, they are passing. Now this is something which is a little weird. You are not able to log in. How will you send an email and log out? The other test cases should not be executed, right? So you can bring dependencies between test cases as well. You can put a comma over here in front of do send mail. You can write over here depends on methods, and you can give the method name do login. That means that do send mail is dependent on do login only if do login is executed successfully and there is no assertion error inside it, then you will execute this. And in the logout test as well, you can use the function depends on methods, and you can say the logout is dependent on both of them, do login as well as say do send mail. If you want to make a test case dependent on multiple test cases before it, you can also do that. So when you run this code now, in your results you will see both of them in yellow color because the login test has failed. Yellow means that they are skipping. These test cases have been skipped. They were not even executed. The reason because the login test failed. Sometimes when you are running test cases, you don't want to you know run all of them. You want to run selectively. When we'll do the framework, you'll come to know. if I don't want to run my login test, okay, I can write over here throw new skip exception. You can skip the login test. You can move your mouse over this, import the skip. You can skip the login test. You can throw the skip exception, right? And this line will deliberately skip the test case. When you run this code, you will see that skips are 3. All the 3 test cases are skipped. Since login test did not execute, it got skipped. The other test cases which were dependent on the login test, they also got skipped. It is pretty simple. Okay, so this is how you can make the test cases. You can use assertions to validate. You want to skip a test case, you can use skip exception. You can make the test cases, prioritize them. You can make them dependent on each other as well. Right. Now you can also have other annotations at the rate before test. Hold on. Right, and you import and at the rate after test. Hold on. Need to import both of them, and I'll just print before test, after test. Okay. Raki, I'll come over to that in the frameworks. If you have 20 test cases, we generally make different Java files for different test cases and run those Java files in batch. Okay. And dependent test cases, we generally keep them in a single file. Okay, I'll come over to it when I do the framework, right? And why testng does not need main function? Well, it's built like that. It is built like that. Whosoever made testng made it like that. Okay, the annotations are executed in testng. Okay, the annotations are executed in testng. When you run this code, you'll see that. Okay, hold on, let me not skip this as well. When you run this, total test runs are 3. All the 3 tests got executed successfully. And if you look at the output, before test function is called before running all the test cases, and after test function is called in the end. So you can do some things before you want to start the test. Maybe in before test you can open the browser, and in all the 3 test cases you can use that browser, and in after test you can close the browser. Okay, right, some things which you want to do before and after executing all the test cases. Similarly, there are other annotations like at the rate before method. Okay, public void before, hold on, just a minute. right? So you have got these two annotations, before method and after method. What they do? Okay, right. So right, when you run this code, you will see that before test and after test, they are executed once, before and after executing every test. Before method and after method are executed each and every time, before and after executing each and every test annotation function. These two will be repetitively called before and after using any test function. Suppose you want to open the browser separately for every test case, you can use them. You want to make different reports for different test cases. So in before method, you can initialize the report for the test, and then after you can flush it, right? You can create the report. So there are various things you will come to know their practicality as well. Okay, right now, look, there are many annotations in Testng, but these are the important ones. At the rate test, before test, after test, before method, after method. Okay, you won't require any other annotation apart from these, right? Similarly, similarly, you have another annotation which is used to parameterize the test case. What I mean to say is, for example, I'll create a new class known as registration test. In this, you have at the rate test public void do a register function. Okay, this function will be registering you on a website. Now suppose you have to run this test case multiple times with different sets of data. Okay, you have to run one test multiple times with different sets of data. Right? How will you do that? Look, out here what we do is that we use a two-dimensional object array. Okay, this two-dimensional object array has got multiple rows. Okay, and multiple columns. Now what do they signify? You must be knowing about two-dimensional object array, right? The number of rows signify the number of times you want to run the test case, and the columns signify the number of parameters in the test case. For example, username, password, phone number, email. If you have got four parameters in the test case, you will have four columns. Okay, and for every run you will store the data in a row. Okay, if you want to run the test case 5 times, you will have 5 rows. 4 times, then you'll have 4 rows. This two-dimensional object array has got indexing. For example, this particular cell is 0 comma 0, this is 0 comma 1, like that. I hope you know that, right? And this is 1 comma 0 and 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2, like this. Okay, right. So out here what we have is that if you want to run this test multiple times, we'll store this data, the data for the test, in a two-dimensional array, and we'll use an annotation known as @data provider. Okay, right, right. And so what we do is that we use this two-dimensional object array, and we create the object array like this. Two-dimensional object array data equals to new object. Now, if you want to run this test multiple times, there are few steps involved. The first step is that you make the data provider. Okay, right. In this data provider, you will put some rows and columns. Say I write 3 rows and 2 columns. That means number of rows are 3. I want to run the test case 3 times. It's something like this. You specify the rows first and then the columns. So I have written 3 rows. That means 3 times I want to run the test. 2 columns means 2 parameters. So I'll fill up the rows. I'll fill up my first row. Okay. And I will write over here data 0 0 equals to say A1 and 0 1 is A2. This is my first row. Then I will build my second row. Okay, 1 0 1 1 B1 B2. Then we will build the third row C1 C2. So we have prepared all the 3 rows. Right now I am putting the data like this. Later on we'll read it from the Excel file. And you write over here return data. So this is my data provider. This data provider has got a two-dimensional object array. This two-dimensional object array will have 3 rows and every row will have the data. Right. Now the first step was build the data provider. The second step is that you have to link the data provider. Link the data provider means that you have to tell this test case that the data will come up from this data provider. So you write over here data provider equals to get data. Okay, now Testng, when it will read the test case, it will understand that the data for this test case is coming from this data provider. Okay, and the last step is that you have to be sure about parameters. Now, the number of input parameters in this function should be same as number of columns. If you have got 2 columns, then you should have 2 input parameters like string, say username and string password. Since you have got 2 parameters, you should have 2 input parameters over here. This number should match the number of input parameters in the function. If I would have be having 4, then these should be 4 parameters over here. That's it. In these 3 steps, you can configure everything. When Testng will read the test case, it will see that the data is coming from data provider. It will go to data provider. First, it will execute the test with the first row. It will pass A1 in username and A2 in the password. Then it will execute the test with this row. It will pass B1 in username, B2 in password and C1 and C2 like that. When you run this test, you see that total test runs are 3. Okay. First with A1, A2, then with B1, B2, then with C1, C2. That's it. This is how you can make a test run with multiple sets of data, and the data will be read from the Excel file later on Right now I have hard coded. You have to follow these simple 3 steps. Alright, so this is about Testng. This is the bare minimum thing which will be required by you to learn Testng. Right. One last thing about Testng is that, hold on, uh, just 1 minute. Yeah, you will need this XML file testng.xml. If you want, till now I can actually execute each test case separately. If I want to run all of these 3 Java files in one go, I will be requiring this testng.xml file in my project. Okay, and this XML file, in this XML file, I can mention all my test cases over here. In the test tags, okay, I can put my test cases. I can put the first test case as login test, and the class corresponding to it is test cases.login test. You have to mention the package name followed by the class. Okay, the second test case is registration test. It's in the package test cases dot registration test. Okay, right. You can, if you want to generate this XML file, you can go right click new file and you can give the name testng.xml and generate it. Or I prefer to use a predefined format and copy it and just change it. You can do it anyways. Okay, right. And the third class is say validate test. Over here you can give any name. Okay, but out here you have to give the correct name. Alright, the name as per the name of the file and as per the upper and the lower case. Okay, so when you, this is my XML file. All the 3 tests are mentioned in this XML file, and when I can run through this XML file and all the 3 tests will be executed serially. You can right click on the testng.xml file and you will get the option run as testng suite. It will be there, this option will be there, and when I run it, if you look at the output, total test runs are 7. So all the test cases, they are executed from top to bottom. The registration test is executed multiple times with different sets of data. Okay, right. So